Indigenous Award of Distinction goes to Strike Group. So congratulations to everyone at Strike Group on your well-deserved recognition.
Well, firstly, I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce, Alberta Chamber of Commerce, and the Alberta for creating the category for companies to be nominated for Indigenous Award of Distinction. And I'd like to recognize fellow nominees in this category. We're really honored to have won this Indigenous Award of Distinction. And Strike, for those of you who may not know, is an employee and management-owned company, private company, headquartered here in Alberta, operating in 22 locations around Western Canada with about 1,000 employees, offering construction and maintenance services. So we're in many communities around the province. We've been working diligently to educate our employees and build respectful Indigenous relations. We feel that we have a responsibility to ensure our employees are trained with a fundamental level of competency around Indigenous culture to help develop and preserve positive relations with Indigenous peoples, businesses, and communities. There's 4 guiding principles I'd just like to note that we operate under in this Indigenous relations and community affairs, and that's respect and trust. Number 2 is engagement and inclusion and cultural awareness. And finally, communication and collaboration. And those are the principles that guide us in our management efforts in this area. We have some things Strike has done. We have an Indigenous awareness course as part of our orientation for all employees. And that's everybody who works for us when they join the company. We bring in Indigenous speakers when we have employee and management conferences to speak and educate us on Indigenous relations and affairs. We've created an Indigenous Relations Committee a few years ago to assist us and to help us engage with several bands and First Nations in Western Canada. And then we have Indigenous scholarship program that we give out $1,000 and $2,000 scholarships to Indigenous students pursuing post-secondary and trade school. That's a few of the things that we do. It's our hope that by sharing the actions we've implemented, we can inspire more businesses to follow suit and continue building meaningful relationships with the Indigenous communities in and around Alberta. We'd like to thank our leadership team for setting the tone, our employees for their willingness to learn. I'd also like to just recognize Cascade Projects and Ballard Consulting for advising us in our community relations and Indigenous relations endeavors. And finally, but not least, I'd like to thank the Alberta Chambers of Commerce and the Alberta Business Awards for this opportunity to share our efforts. Thank you very much.
Well, and thank you and congratulations. And you gave us a good sense of the width and the breadth of some of the things that you're doing when it comes to Indigenous relations and educating your employees. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about, when you're on a project, part of what you do is you build meaningful relationships. You reach out looking for qualified workers from local communities. You really seek out those opportunities to work together. What kind of successes have you seen from those practices?
Well, that's a really good question. And as I noted, we're in 22 locations, but we work remotely in other areas of Western Canada and particularly Northern Alberta. So long before we do a project in a certain area, we start to build relations with the local community and to get ready for hiring both individuals and companies, Indigenous and non-Indigenous in the community. So we start that before some of the larger projects that we work on remotely. We have had really good success in hiring Indigenous folks from the communities we work in. We had, for example, $20 million of Indigenous work partners doing work for us last year on our projects. So that's a dollar volume, but it's a significant amount of partnering we do. And so we're really pleased with the efforts of our employees and the inroads we've made over the last several years and building our reputation as a solid business partner in these communities that we work in.
Some of the initiatives that you have in place, you know, the scholarships, the training programs for your employees, bringing in Indigenous speakers, those are not things that every company does. So what would you say to other business owners and leaders who are joining us tonight who are thinking maybe it's time to incorporate some of those practices? What would your words of advice to them be on how to get started?
Well, I think you got to start with small steps. Number one, you don't have to do everything all at once and check all the boxes all at once. You need to take one thing at a time. But it's important to recognize that this can only help your business and help your reputation in the community by doing these things. And so if you're not doing it, I would suggest you start in a small way, whether it's hiring or partnering or subcontracting or supporting the communities in whatever ways that you see fit, but start to build a reputation, start to build a relationship in these communities, and it will only help. It'll only help your business and your people. When we go into a community, we're looked at quite favorably, and the Indigenous communities that we've worked with all speak very highly of our business, because I think we've been fair and we treat people as we'd like to be treated.
Yeah, that's the best phrase of advice right there. Well, congratulations and thank you so much.
Can I say one thing about the sod father?
Yes, sure.
Jason Dyler commented there earlier, and you don't hear this very often, but he mentioned they go the extra mile. And I know it sounds simple. It's not said often enough, but the extra mile is never crowded. And if you go the extra mile, like the sod father, I would expect he's a top decile performer in his industry. But that's not a bad little motto to have either, is going the extra mile, because I don't think it is truly that crowded.
It's never that crowded. I love that. Thank you so much. Inspiring words of advice from Alberta business leaders tonight. This is excellent. And congratulations again to Strike Group, the 2021 recipient of the Indigenous Award of Distinction.